today we are talking about predictions for the MTG ban list that's coming out on next Monday, the 16th. We do have a special guest, Casey. He
Ooh.
he was invited to the RC Regional Championship in Dallas, so he doesn't want to be a big deal, but we're gonna treat him like a big deal.
Woo!
Let's jump right in, guys. Modern format. Before we get started with predictions, I do want to talk about. Please explain to the viewers what is modern.
Trevor, do you want this or you want me to do it?
I can take this one.
Sure.
Modern is going to be 8th edition for the beginning of Modern set-wise, all the way to whatever the current set is. So that gives you a pretty big gap of sets. It's
21 years.
Is it 21 years now?
Yeah. 2000, 8th edition was 2003.
Jeez.
Gotta love 21.
What I'm hearing is it's
also
kind of big deal.
Yeah, it's got a large card pool, but it also has the Modern Horizon sets that everybody loves.
And they work the formats every single time. It's also a 60 card minimum deck. You get your 4 copies.
50 card sideboard.
Yep.
Its own ban list.
Its own ban list.
Its own ban list. So starting off, you picked Amped Raptor. It is a card I am not personally familiar with when it comes to Commander. However, it is a 2/1 for a 2-drop. So I can see why this is very strong. We've talked about cards similar to this in other videos. What types of situations have you guys found yourself to be in with this card, either playing it or playing it against it? And what makes it powerful enough beyond just its mana value and its power and toughness? I'm assuming it has something to do with the energy.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. It's definitely a part of the energy. So Amp Raptor allows you to cast anything off your deck, basically. So if you start with Guided Souls, which is a 1-drop that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain an energy. So you'll go into turn 4 if you start with a Guided Souls with 4 energy after you cast it, which will cast just about everything in your deck.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Flage.
The One Ring.
The One Ring. So it allows you to cast anything in your deck, and the worst card to actually flip off Amp Raptor is itself, because it says it has to be from hand.
Oh.
Yep. So it's got a little bit of drawback. And then the reason why I kind of even prompted this card was that the Boros Energy Shell is pretty good. It's about 28% of the meta over the last 2 weeks, and then 9% of the meta of all of 2024 in this deck has only been legal for 6 months.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So kind of some disgusting numbers. So my point of banning Amp Raptor is I don't want to kill the strategy. I think the energy decks are very cool. And I think Trevor can agree with me that
100%.
Killing decks is just not a good thing.
Right.
But when 27% of the meta over all world events, you kind of have to bring something down, and I think Amp Raptor is the card to do that, because Amp Raptor is 2 cards and can cast basically anything from your deck at all times.
Sure.
Trevor, how you feeling?
I think you nailed all the points. Amp Raptor, with the Guida Souls, it just gets disgusting, because hitting a Flage, even though it's gonna get sacrificed right away, having basically 5 damage on turn 2, turn 3 that's a fourth of your life total in Modern. That's huge damage, and it's just gonna cause issues.
Now, this wasn't a part of my questioning. However, I did notice while looking at this just now, this is from Modern Horizons 3. This is a new card, and you just mentioned a stat regarding energy. So did Wizards just not know and were like, yeah, and they shout out this card, and they were like, you'll figure it out? Or do you think they were very aware of what people are complaining competitively and were like, let's make it even stronger?
So it's hard to say, because Wizards does take comp play into play. It also takes a lot of casual play. I mean, speaking of Modern Horizons 3's cards that were banned, Nadu, they said it was a commander card. Let's be real.
We love Nadu.
No.
I mean, I love Nadu.
Nadu's welcome at our house.
Nadu was in your Christmas tree.
He sure was.
But so they wanted to bring energy into Modern, make it an archetype. I think it was a very cool idea. I think energy was a cool mechanic. I remember playing it in Standard.
Yep.
However, I think sometimes cards just fall through the cracks.
Sure.
Or they don't think a deck is going to be as good. as
Right.
it is going to be.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
if you had just shown me these energy cards into a deck together, I would have been like, this deck is terrible. I think I was telling Trevor that when that deck first came out. I was
Yep.
like, this card looks like a bunch of bulk rares,
Sure.
especially since everything is almost from MH3. However, then you're pleasantly surprised when you're dying on turn 3, just like because somebody went app ramped their One Ring, and you're like, there's
Sure.
no counterplay.
I was
There's no
gonna
counterplay.
I was gonna say I'm looking at the most recent Boros energy deck.
Mhm.
All the creatures are from MH3.
Really.
That 4 of the non-creatures are from MH3. The enchantments are more than half of them are from MH3, and even the lands you're seeing them from Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah.
So Modern Horizons, any Modern Horizons set, it just wipes or warps the meta so drastically, and we've seen it in the past with Modern Horizons 1 having Renin 6.
Yeah.
Um,
MH2 had Hogak.
yeah, and Hogak killed so many decks.
Mm-hmm. So I think to answer your question, that they partially thought about it in comp. I don't
Sure.
think they realized how good that this like mid-range strategy was going to be, though.
100%.
So you guys talked a little bit about the One Ring. If you were to pair this into like an Is It deck or something that's splashing blue, and even though it is in Boros, what is a card someone would be looking for to pull with this ETB ability? Like what is comboing that you're seeing?
I mean, I think it just generates so much generic value because it's almost if you build your deck properly, it's always going to cast something or
Okay.
most things in your deck. I think this card is really good. I would want to play this card in Commander. This is my kind of Commander card. Like, here's this stupid card, but how do I make it like really degenerate?
Sure.
Like, in a
100%.
singleton format.
Of course.
I don't know. I want to pair like a ritual with it. I want to go like Amp Raptor into Desperate Ritual into like something else.
Sure. Trevor, what's your input? What would you be looking to hit if you played this and cast that 4 mana?
If I'm casting out 4 mana, I'm probably playing it in an Eldrazi shell, and I know that we've talked about not liking Eldrazi's, and I just know that Eldrazi's in constructed are just so powerful because you're just getting so much value so quick.
So is the ETB ability really what made you guys hit this into your predictions? Does the 2 mana 2/1 drop really play a factor, or is it just the context of the card?
I think for Amp Raptor, it's the ETB. I don't think the stats really have a whole lot of effect. I think the ETB is just really good. It being on a body, definitely an upside.
Yeah.
I think the One Rings ETB, especially whenever you're chaining One Rings together so that you aren't taking damage, is another upside. But it also gives you so much card draw because you can go, okay, I'm going to tap my One Ring on my turn to draw a card. And then I'm going to tap my One Ring again to draw 2 more cards. And then I'm going to play another One Ring, and your opponent isn't able to do anything.
And most of the blue decks nowadays are playing Monamo to untap it to also do additional.
Yep. So they're drawing like 5 cards a turn.
Yeah. And with Amp Raptor, I mean, the 2/1 body is nice. I mean, if you slap anything on a body, it's always just going to be generically good. I think that a part of the appeal of that strategy is that it can go wide. So, like, the 2/1 body does matter. However, the ETB is really what's important because even if you get one of, like, there's a card called Static Prison in the pile, it's like, all right, cool. I still went up a energy, and then I also have a Static Prison now, which also exiled your best non-land permanent. So, like, Amp Raptor itself is not so much of a problem card. It's just that in the shell that it's in, it's probably like the S+ card that's just breaking everything open.
So we'll segue over to the One Ring. As a Commander player, I'm actually not surprised to see this in Modern as well. In fact, I'm surprised it's not even already banned in Modern, to be quite frank. Like the Amp Raptor, have you guys found yourself in a predicament to be playing this or be playing against this, and there is a moment that was like, this needs to be banned? Either you did a gross thing or someone else did a gross thing to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely a One Ring abuser in multiple formats.
So you're degenerate on several levels, is what we're hearing.
Yes, except I know when a card needs to go.
Sure.
So like in Modern, like the One Ring is outrageous.
Mhm.
It's in 63% of decks
Oh,
at all times at an average copy of 3.4 or 3.5 copies.
Yep.
Check MTG Top 8. I checked that. Um, but so it's a card that is just like, if your deck can play it or is
Mhm.
not trying to win by turn 3,
Mhm.
like you should be playing 4 copies of this card. It's outrageously strong, and it being 4 generic mana, you can
Mhm.
do whatever you want. Like it's all right, cool. So like it's just warping the format in a negative way, and then the One Ring is also causing like this gameplay issue because we're allowed to play 4 copies of it. We can
right.
just draw it when we're about to die, replay it, have a fog for a turn, and then continuously do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
When I saw, oh sorry,
I've never asked and I've never played with legendary artifacts. Does this have the same rule as legendary creatures? You can only have one on the field, and then it will negate the other one. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. It whoop, and then that'll allow you to keep the one on the field that's not about to kill you.
Yeah, it basically just resets it, which
Yeah.
is what makes it super powerful.
Yeah.
Trevor, have you ever been done dirty by this card, or have done somebody dirty by this card?
I have been done. I've been got by this card a couple times where I'm like,
Mhm.
oh sweet, I'm gonna be able to kill someone next turn, and I'm like, oh, this is game 3 in my tournament. We're going off. We're getting there, and then it's One Ring, and I'm like, fuck, and then they just stabilize, and I'm like, okay, now you have all the counter magic for literally everything I'm playing against, or they're
Yeah.
just getting rid of my stuff. And I'm like, this could have been so much better if you didn't have this card.
So I think the next thing I don't even need to ask, because I put a question of, if I was playing against a deck that had this One Ring and it hit the field, this would be the thing that I need to get rid of ASAP. And I think this is going to be an unanimous yes, if able. Okay.
The hard part about getting rid of the One Ring
Mhm.
has indestructible.
Yeah, we don't talk about that whatsoever. So in that example, how do you, aside from being able to do like a counter spell or like an arcane denial or something, what do you do in this instance?
You have to exile it.
So in Modern, there's a couple cards that you can play. So like out of the white decks, a lot of the white decks play Prismatic Ending, which is like a very popular
Ossification.
yeah, very very popular commander card. So obviously exiling it off the board works. We also have a lot of cards that in Magic in general saying you name a card, you can't play it. You know, so like things like Pithing Needle, we can Pithing Needle it. Kind of.
That's my card.
Yeah, right. And then there's a really big one in the green decks. I've been known to play a very specific green deck for a long time. But it's called Pick Your Poison, so you can make somebody sacrifice an artifact and hope it's their only artifact on the field.
Sure.
Yep.
So there's ways around it, but it is a rather difficult card to remove.
It is.
So keeping on our theme of hot takes, do you think this was a mistake from Wizards?
Yes. It should have had the line of text that says you can only have one in your deck.
Yeah, I think being able to play 4 of it was a mistake. I think the amount of cards that thing draws you is also a mistake. It just like goes on forever, and then I agree with Trevor that it should have had you can only have one of these in your deck, because the gameplay loop that is just play a One Ring into a One Ring is egregiously strong.
It's also a flavor win.
But
it's also a flavor win
because there's only one of the ring in Lord of the Rings, so it can only be the One Ring. Having 4 is not it.
I was gonna say though, I agree there should only be one in a deck because the One Ring. But with how powerful it is, I mean, they stuck true to Lord of the Rings, right? It is a powerful card. It was a powerful ring. So, I mean, thumbs up on, hitting that mark, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that card works very well in like something like Commander.
Sure.
Or, even
100%.
in Legacy, it's not really a problem. So it can live in somewhere.
Sure.
It just should not be
here.
living in Modern.
Period. Got it. Let's move on. Let's talk about Pioneer. Can you guys explain the difference between Pioneer and Modern, or just what Pioneer is?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
let Carson take the lead on this one because that's his RCQ format. That's his
Nice.
regional qualifier.
So Pioneer is anything from its 2012. I think it's the first the Ravnica set of
Okay.
2012 is the first one of that
Mhm.
one, and then
Mhm.
it's Ravnica to current, whatever the current standard set
Okay.
is, with no supplemental set like the modern set had.
Okay. So how does that? I'm assuming it's just a time period difference between this and modern. So it's kind of, is it easy to get kind of confused because you started it said it started at Ravnica.
Yeah, so Magic is super weird in terms of like they give you such a weird card pool for
Right.
every
Mhm.
format, and every
Mhm.
format has their own ban list, which affects the card pool.
Right.
And so, like, sometimes it's a little confusing, especially with like reprints and everything. People are like, "Oh, well, that card came out this," and it's like, "Well, kind of, but no." So, in my experience, like, I haven't had too many people be confused. You just tell them that it starts from a different point. It's
Sure.
like standard starts from here to there. And
Yeah.
I think if you know vaguely where format or when sets came out, it's not as confusing. But
Mhm.
I don't
Okay. So this we just talked about this, and I didn't mean for the questions to double up. This is a fairly new card. This came out in Bloomborough in August.
Card's disgusting.
know. Card is disgustingly good.
I was gonna say Carson and I have had many conversations about this card. He was skeptical at first because he thought it was 3 mana.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
do you think Wizards thought about other formats when they did this? Because right now Wizard is catering a lot to what feels like Commander. So do you think this was a Commander made card, and then they just were like, people won't play these in other formats, and thought nothing of it, and that was not their play group when they test their cards?
man, this one's kind of hard because I can see I mean like the biggest appeal to me is that I can run 4 copies of this card,
Sure.
like in competitive formats. The Pioneer deck that I play abuses the crap out of this card.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them do.
Mhm.
But so it feels weird because it feels like you want 2 of them because they just synergize so well to each other.
Mm-hmm.
However, like when I was talking to Trevor about this card, for whatever reason, I kept hearing 3 mana when he talked about this card, and it not being 2 mana. Because if it was 3 mana, I think it would have totally been designed as a commander card. But at 2 mana, I feel like they were like, let's give the combo deck something cool.
One moment while I fight back a sneeze really quick, because either my editor is going to have to take it out, or I'm going to mute myself, and there's going to be some wild ass still of me, and I don't want that. I think we're good. I'm getting over a head cold. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah.
But that's fair. So really, realistically, and Trevor, you might know because it sounds like maybe you play more Commander than Casey. Does this have a place in Commander, or is this really just a place in like formats where you can play more than one copy?
I would play this card in my Niv deck that you love so much.
He's great.
Built the new Niv from Foundations. You draw cards when stuff does non-combat damage. The gas, Lightning Bolts, and Ancestral Recall, that also hits your opponent for 3.
So
And this is it's a reducer. It lets me rummage for cards. It also can increase the damage. I think that the stats on it, for what it has, there's just so much upside that it's worth playing. And Commander, and I have been looking for some, but since they are being played in Pioneer so much, they're not easy to find.
Yeah, I was running a flubs list, and this was the first card that I played. I put in the deck. I go,
not another flubs.
We need more.
So Carson, you would know then. So when you play this card in Pioneer, because you are running several copies, do you play it for the 2, or is there a reason why? Are you leveling this up to max level, or are you leveling these maybe to like 2 and then just letting them sit? Like how do you play these? Because it does have multiple layers.
Yeah, this card's got a lot of text on it. So the 2 decks that I played in is the first one's called Lotus Combo. I don't know if you're familiar with the card Lotus Field, but
I might be.
Yeah. So you play Lotus Field, you make 2 of them, you make a bunch of mana, and then win the game.
Okay.
So you play that in Lotus Field. I have found it that almost every single mode is good.
Mm-hmm.
The loot is the main reason why you play it.
Mm-hmm.
You can win the game just like with that.
Right.
If as you're generating more mana, leveling up becomes really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And which will discount all my spells as I'm storming off.
Right.
And then additionally, on top of that, we've added a loop with Niv Mizzet Perun in our deck and Lightning Strike because of the third ability.
That Niv Mizzet deck makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah. So in that strategy, I see all levels being very good and worth my time and mana. In Phoenix, the more traditional, like best artist talent deck,
Right.
I think a lot of people only use it for the loot,
Sure.
the rummage or whatever. I don't remember what any of them were called anymore.
Let's see. So, what card or cards are you looking to combo with this specifically, if there is a combo? I'm guessing that this is in like Spell Slingers, right? This is probably very classic in like a Is It deck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Both those strategies that I talked about are both Is It decks.
Yeah,
Yep.
Niv Mizzet for sure is an Is It. If you didn't catch by the name, if you know nothing about Magic, you could probably guess.
Is the guy. He's the guy.
He is the dude.
Yeah, but so like the Phoenix strategy in Pioneer uses it as a card draw advantage, and as well as the premier card arc like Phoenix going to the graveyard and coming back after you cast a number of spells. But that deck plays very much like a mid-range deck, so it kind of uses it as card selection at the same time. Like, hey, this card's bad, throw it away, right? And then my deck, I play the Spell Slinger deck. Just cranks it out. It's just like play this on 2, play every draw card effect, untap your lands, just go ham. Thassa's Oracle for the win.
Oh my god. You know, Thassa's Oracle seems to sneak its way into everything. And that card did not hit this list, but because you bring it up, I'm going to take a moment. When they did the last ban list, everyone was like, we're not going to talk about the Thassa's Oracle. And meanwhile, it's like sitting there behind like the curtains as Nadu gets banned in literally every format. And we're like, was that really the problem? Like, yes, but at the same time, the Thassa's Oracle, honestly, I have a feeling both of you like that card, which is why I didn't land on this list.
I could see Thassa's Oracle getting banned in Commander.
I could see it getting banned in Commander. I'd be a little upset about it, but
I would also be a little upset about it. But 100% could see it getting banned in Commander.
It's the same reason why I'm upset that Prime Time's banned.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
The next one you guys chose was the Treasure Cruise. I am familiar with this. Trevor does play it in Commander. It has hit suggestions on a couple of my decks. If I was playing this card in a Pioneer deck, what kind of deck would I be throwing this into and utilizing it appropriately? I'm assuming it's a combo piece.
I was going to say, I think it's in quite a bit of blue decks just for the card advantage.
Well, I mean, it's a blue card. I hope it ends up in a blue
value.
deck.
You see this deck, like a lot of this card gets played a lot when you want a bunch of cards in hand. So
Right.
like the deck that plays it the most is that like blue red Phoenix deck that we were talking about that plays artist talent. It's just so after you kind of like dump your hand, you can rebuild for very efficient mana. I mean, you're gonna be playing this in decks that can just like put cards into their graveyard kind of fast to utilize the delve ability, because in reality this card isn't Treasure Cruise, it's Ancestral Recall at sorcery speed.
Yep.
So
it's a house.
A question is, because you guys referenced this Phoenix decks a couple times, taking these two cards out, if they do get banned, does that cripple that deck, or is there other cards out there that basically the world is not going to be an uproar, the Phoenix players?
I think if Cruise gets banned, they're going to be really upset. I think if Artist Talent gets banned, they're going to be upset, but like,
it's fine.
It's fine. The Phoenix deck has been like one of the most popular decks in a while, and it uses both of these cards, and that's kind of why it's on this list, because they think that it goes back to like that thing we were kind of talking with the Amp Raptor, that the strategy is just too consistent, and then consistently is a large portion of the meta. And so typically Wizards in the past chose, hey, we don't want to kill this deck. We just want to remove some cards from it to put room for other decks.
Sure. That makes sense.
I do think they get rid of one of them. I don't think they get rid of both of them.
I agree. I think it's one or the other.
So
Yep.
one or the other. Okay, that seems fair.
It's most likely Treasure Cruise, though, in my opinion.
I agree.
That's fair. The mana value for this card is quite high. I'm not entirely sure because I've never played Pioneer. I've really only dabbled a little bit into I think like Standard or whatever. Do you utilize the delve mechanic? Do you find yourself in a position where you have enough cards in graveyard that you're willing to exile and be able to pay for this in a lower cost?
Oh, absolutely. You're never casting more than this card for more than 2 mana.
All the time, yeah.
All the time. It's either 1 or 2. And
Mhm.
sometimes the 2 is because there's a Thalia on board.
That's the problem I have as a commander player is either A, my graveyard is not saturated enough, or B, I don't know if I'm willing to give up what's in my graveyard because there is a chance I might be able to pull back.
Oh yeah, and that happens all the time during like competitive play. Sometimes you'll want to bring a card back because you know you have cards in your deck that allow you to retreat from your graveyard, but then sometimes it's kind of a two-handed sword that you're like,
Yep.
well, I kind of need to cast this card, so I kind of have to say goodbye to another one. Like,
Right.
It's always a coin flip.
Now, if this gets banned in Pioneer, do you think there's a potential it will get banned in Commander?
No.
I don't think this card will ever get banned in Commander. I mean, we have far better draw spells in Commander.
100%.
I'm just saying you can get it kind of low and draw 3. I don't know. I feel like when the instances that I see it come out of Trevor's decks is I feel like, I don't know if maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly or I just go blind. I feel like this thing goes away and then somehow it rears its ugly head back onto the field all within the same game.
Usually within the same turn.
Sure. Okay, so I'm not crazy.
It's because I'm playing Archaeomancer to get it back, and
Yep.
then we're delving again because our graveyard's so big. Carson knows all about this.
Yeah. No, I don't think this card will ever get banned in Commander. I think this card is very strong, and I feel like a lot of the times you're just probably going to load up on a lot of the cheaper cantrips anyway.
I think it's fair in Commander.
Let's move to
I think it's pretty good.
Standard. Was this just the golden child, the apex of Magic? You guys have no predictions?
As you and I talked about it a little bit at work, it's the goth girl of Magic formats. You can't fix her, and if you do, another issue just comes up.
Can you guys explain to me really quickly though the difference between Standard and Modern and Pioneer?
Ooh.
That is the year gap, I'm assuming. Is it an adjustment there?
Standard is the last 3 years?
Is it 3 or is it 4?
Oh, it might be 4. I don't know. Standard's the one that I used to play, left because they never did events for it, and then came back to recently.
Oh.
Let me look when Shieldred was printed, because it's a good indicator, because
that'll be the last set.
Yep. That'll be...
Yeah, so it's a smaller time frame, and then it rotates every...
I was going to say, it's every 2 years, and it rotates yearly.
Oh, wow. So what makes Standard the most balanced? Because you guys had no opinion.
It's not balanced, but it's not... It's the
like,
hardest one to gauge.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say it's the most balanced, or one of them. I think Pioneer and Standard right now are I would argue are the healthiest formats outside of Commander being a social format.
Sure.
But... because then I would say Commander.
Right.
But the Standard right now just has a lot of viable decks, and then there's no one deck that's really a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like the most winning deck has I think maybe only a 54% win rate.
Do you think
so
do you think it has something to do with that year gap, right? Is you're not playing with cards across several years, right? At all different power levels. It's within that time frame of 2 years where they should roughly all be on the same power level, right? Because I feel like with more and more Magic that's coming out, the power levels are adjusting, you right? You're compensating for something.
Yeah, so I think you're definitely right that the card pool of it definitely helps that, because now we don't have busted cards, like Black Lotus in our format.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, as somebody who's casted some Black Lotuses,
Everyone should have one in their stockpile of things.
Hey, the one that's in my collection is fake, but I mean MTGO, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so like that definitely a part of it because there's just like less good cards,
Mhm.
or I mean there might be a same but different density, right?
Right.
So like that is true, and then a lot of it is standard is usually weaker cards with like a few like haymakers
Sure.
in each set. So like
Mhm.
that also helps self balance it. And then typically standard wants to be like a mid range pile format, just like
Yeah.
battle cruiser. People go do
Yeah.
all the things.
I was gonna say, even looking at like the meta game for standard, it's the top end or the top decks right now is Demir mid range, Golgari mid range, and then the next 4 decks are aggro decks.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's really mid range and aggro the format. You don't really have control decks, which I think is wild.
That is strange.
Sometimes they fall in and out a lot just because they don't have like all the good counter spells.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's move to Legacy.
Oh. The juiced format.
We will need to talk about the difference of Legacy compared to other formats, because my goal is also for this to be a learning experience for anybody that does not know. I'm a great example about what is the difference between all of them. So if we can capture them all, that would be great.
Yeah. So Legacy is every card ever printed outside of cards that are from silver bordered sets.
Yep.
And has a much more restrictive ban list. So I mean, Black Lotus is banned.
Yep.
Soul Ring banned. Mana Vault is banned.
Mana Crypt also banned.
Mana Crypt.
If it has a
Straight
mana
to
in
jail.
if it has mana in it and it's an artifact, probably banned.
It's probably banned. The monks. Yeah. So so you get to play like anything you want basically across. You could play Savannah Lions with what's a new creature, Cranko. If you wanted to.
You sure could.
So it's like
sure could.
It's a commander variant, I guess I would say. It's supposed to be you can pick anything you want out of the ether except for the overpowered things. It's supposed to be like a friendly format outside of 100 cards.
It's all cutthroat.
Okay, I tried.
It's you get to play any cards you want, so people get to play like some cooler pet decks that are still like competitive. Because in the end, it's still a competitive format.
Sure.
So you're trying to kill people.
Naturally.
You're trying to kill a single person as fast as possible.
Right.
100, yeah.
So I mean, like I've definitely played some dorky Legacy. Nick Fit is like the dorkiest one, but people still 100%. Play it.
I was gonna say my mono black initiative deck whenever I was playing was pretty jank, but guess what? No one was expecting a 63 card deck.
Yeah, you'll see a lot more fun decks that actually be good pop up in Legacy. Yep. Like Sticker Goblins was super neat.
Yep. You loved playing Sticker Goblins, and you were just playing Sticker Goblins, so you could go Mind Goblin.
Yeah.
So these next 2 cards, and I will touch on them individually, I find very interesting because I play both in my Graveyard Recursion Commander deck. So I can understand why these have hit the list, but I do want to do a small breakdown of them. What is making Reanimate so powerful now compared to the last few years that it would land the list on Monday?
Yeah, that's actually I love the way that question is like phrased too, because it was like, oh, why wasn't Reanimate banned earlier? It's like what actually caused this problem. So in the last like 6 months or so, since MH3 has come out,
right,
or that's when I first started noticing the deck coming out and being a thing. But there's this blue-black Reanimator deck, which just plays, Entomb and Reanimate to bring creatures back from the graveyard. Specifically attract creatures like Atraxa Grand Unifier or whatever the new one is called.
What's wrong with Atraxa?
Atraxa
is a very good card when it's 2 mana.
2 mana, draw 10?
You're telling me you don't want to attuned Atraxa and then reanimate her?
Oh,
that's what the problem is.
I see. I found the issue.
Yes. So the problem is these blue decks that can fight over with counterspell.
Or the troll,
Khazad-dûn in Gristlebrand,
Gristle
Arcana
Daddy,
Cruelty.
Yep.
All these haymaker cards
that
are 7 mana plus on almost each one of them.
Right.
I think Archon 6, but You know, 6 to 7 mana, you're casting it for
Basically
2
free.
mana, pretty much free.
Yeah.
And these cards are really hard to, are kind of rather difficult to get rid of.
Right.
Not because in Legacy, I mean, we have a card called Force of Will.
I love Force of Will.
I was like, all the Commander players love Force of Will.
I used to have 2 of them, and then I sold one because I was like, this is rude.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It's
pretty gross. So it's cool. I get to reanimate this cool threat, and now I have all the free counter magic in the world.
Right.
I can play 4 Force of Will and 4 whatever to prevent you from ever removing this, and this thing is going to kill you in 2 to 3 turns.
Exactly, especially with Archon being 8 mana, you can't even play your the prismatic ending like we were talking about earlier in Modern. 8 mana is just so hard to get rid of. Like, sure, you have your Solitudes and your Swords to Plowshares, but those aren't being played a whole lot right now. And it's ETB having an opponent sack a creature, discard a card, and lose 3, and you draw a card and gain 3.
I mean,
there's
also
just so much.
If you ETB in Atraxa, you probably already found a way to put an Archon or a Gristlebrand into your graveyard.
Yep.
Just off the ETB alone. So 2 mana draw 10 for like 7 life isn't really that big of a deal when you have everything to do with it.
Especially since Atraxa has lifelink, so you're attacking with it next turn, unless they swords it, which means you're still gaining your 7 life.
I'm going to skip my next question because we pretty much covered what is some of the things you would be reanimating. If this card is banned, is this going to alter any of your legacy decks if you do have them? Or if not, do you think this will help or hinder the formatting and balancing of some of these decks?
As somebody who owns a lot of these cards, like, I'm always kind of sad, but I also never sell my cards. So, I mean, my reanimates, my entombs will just sit in a box until I like decide to build 4 reanimator commander decks.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey man, I'm already working on one. Yeah, it'll definitely warp the format a lot. I mean, if one of these two cards, so Entomb is the one that should likely go. Reanimate itself is a fine mid-range card, but the appeal of these blue-black reanimator decks is that you only have to play 1 copy of these reanimation targets, and then you'll protect them in the game. Where in the past, the red-black reanimator deck played, it's like 4 copies of each one to discard the Fatal Suiting. So I think, because if you hit reanimate, you kill like red-black reanimator, and I don't like doing that. I think Entomb is clearly the problem here, and we could still play reanimator strategies and then still be strong. So banning either one does a lot, and it does it in different ways.
Right.
And like, yeah, am I sad that my $20 investment of Entombs or Reanimates goes away? I'm like, whatever.
It's whatever. We are going to segue into it, and I liked where that was going, but I will touch on, Trevor, shame on you for picking the Entombed art that I like that is in my reanimating deck. Shame on you. I noticed. Don't think I didn't. We, again, kind of touched on what you would be looking for in hand if you are going to be doing the Entomb, or what you're going to be surfing out of your deck. It sounds like it's the Atraxa. It's some of these big high mana cost cards. Why specifically did you guys pick this tutor as opposed to other tutors such as Vampiric or Mystic or Enlightened? Granted, I know the other ones is you're searching for a specific type of card, but why Entomb, and specifically that is going to the graveyard? Is it because the reanimate?
Vampiric tutor's banned.
So one is done, and 2 are done.
So most tutors are banned in Legacy. Demonic tutor is also banned.
Okay.
Yep.
I think Imp Seal is also banned.
Imp Seal is banned.
Yeah, so Legacy said, hey, we have we got Dark Ritual, so we can't really have these tutors.
But what about Gamble? That's the real question.
Gamble's legal.
Gamble's legal because Gamble requires you to discard a card. So you can discard the card that you tutor.
It is exactly, you get exactly what's on the tin. 100% is you gamble.
Yeah.
I think Enlightened tutor is legal, though.
It probably is. It's the weakest of them all.
It is. And Worldly tutor is legal.
Oh.
Oh, wait a minute.
I
Worldly
don't think
Tutor is
that. I don't
mad
think
banned.
that one's true.
Time
Someone
out,
fact
time
checked
out.
him down below in the comments. Tell him he's
Yeah, I
wrong.
was like, I think that one's banned.
I am pretty sure that one is banned because I was just like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
So,
that card's pretty good.
What I'm hearing is my next comment of if this gets banned, will other tutors follow? It sounds like other tutors were banned, and this one is just following suit out the door.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, this card is absurdly strong. It also, Entomb, it doesn't say it has to be a creature. I've seen that be relevant in some, like, niche legacy decks.
Sure.
Because Entomb just says a
A
card.
card.
So I've seen people put Echo of Aeons into a graveyard before.
Oh, that's
Worldly
interesting.
Tutor is legal.
Oh.
Just fact checked it.
That's wild.
It is.
I guess
Ren
we have,
and
green,
6 is
I guess
banned,
we have
though.
Green Sun Zenith, and that's just kind of better than Worldly Tutor.
We also have Sylvan Tutor as well, which is just sorcery speed. Worldly Tutor.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's Entomb is going to get or might get banned because of Reanimate. So it's like, oh well, argue Reanimate, but
Right.
Yep.
it's just like we are also banning an enabler, or like the best enabler, because
Right.
people still wanted to play these strategies. There are other ways, like mana efficient way, like 1 mana ways to get these creatures into graveyards. They just have to be in your hand.
Sure. Psychic Frog. This is not a card I had seen until today. And as I quoted to you guys when I saw it was, I've never seen him. He's gross.
He was a mistake.
That card is juice.
It is
just juice.
It's just good because it's you discard a card, homie gets bigger, and he just
Bigger
stays
forever.
Yeah.
Forever. It's not even till end of turn, like the original one was. This thing just gets a +1/+1 counter.
It's just gas.
The real question, are you guys monsters? Is one of you running this in a legacy deck?
I was playing it in Modern whenever I was doing some Modern RCQ grinding. I was playing the Modern Reanimator deck with Psychic Frog. Casey, I know you've played this card in Modern or in Legacy.
I have played this card in both Modern and Legacy.
Yeah, you're the monster.
Please tell me there's better art than this too. This thing is horrific.
You gotta look at the full art. The full art is
that. Yeah, that's what I put in there.
That's
the
what's in there.
phenomenal.
Dude, the full art's the best one.
It's cooking.
Dude, but okay, so I just like to play. I love to play Magic. I love to play Magic. So I play a little bit of everything, and so sometimes playing the Boogeyman deck is pretty cool.
The Baba Yaga is what we will start calling you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play it for at least one event.
100%.
Trevor might remember this deck from Modern's past, but I went through a small KCI arc.
Oh, KCI.
KCI is a card that I'm brewing up in Commander right now. I just want to play that card again.
I have a list I can send you. Ariel's seen this list. She's played against this.
Yeah.
It's playing. There's a Jan Jansen list that I'll send you, and
Yeah.
some Mardu artifacts. And you're playing. There's a card from Murders of Karlov Manor that you sacrifice a clue, and target opponent gets 2 poison counters.
Oh, I do know this one. This is one I want to build. This is the only Orzhov deck that I want to build.
Oh, yeah. This one's Mardu. We're adding red because red is so good.
You get gamble.
You get gamble.
You're right. If an opponent plays this card, I'm assuming this becomes top priority over everything else on the board state.
Yep.
Have fun trying to remove it though.
I was gonna say he feels annoying. What in God's green earth do I do to get this little monster off the field?
Hope they don't have counter spell. It's honestly the truth. Is just hope they don't have someone because whatever you do to try to react to it, they're either if you're in red and you're just gonna deal damage to it. Okay, cool. I'll discard a card, or I'll discard 2 cards. Your bolt didn't do anything.
Well, red, you're not playing bolt to get rid of this. You're playing your Pyroblast and your red elemental blast.
Sure, but I mean, like even in modern, right? It's just like you're playing red and you're not getting rid of this thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna imprison this fucker in the moon. That's what I'm gonna do.
Force of will, mana drain. I don't know. They got it all. I swear. I mean, even in Commander, you play this card and you have your Commander out. You just go Fierce Guardianship.
Yep. Carson, we gotta play Commander sometime.
We do. I'm gonna.
But I mean, so the answer to the question is you pray basically. You just hope they don't have counter magic, and they're gonna draw counter magic every time that they attack with this thing. Basically, it's always just
Always.
This is a good card. I would consider this card for some of my decks.
I think the biggest problem with this frog is it gets bigger. It can give itself evasion. It also is just card advantage.
Yeah, it just does everything.
Yep.
It's just so good.
And can we talk about how this thing has flying? That's one of the things we talked about when we were talking about Voltron decks is you need to either have flying or trample to be able to connect. This thing's just like, I do fly.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
All these cards that I don't want in my graveyard anymore? Yeah, I'll fly. Why not?
Cool. These 3 lands I just discarded to make me into a 4/5? Sure. Guess what? We're punching you.
Let's move on to Commander.
Oh.
Yes.
We skipped, I think, Commander. Oh, no. I don't have the slides in the right order. We'll back up. We'll come back to those. Commander ban predictions. We had none.
It could be Thassa's Oracle. It could be Thassa's Oracle.
So it could be Thassa.
I spaced it because I don't want it to get banned. Could be Thassa's Oracle.
But other than that, no, go ahead.
I just want unbans in Commander.
So we'll go back to that slide, like I said, because that was my fault for not having them in the correct order. We will skip this part because our video is getting long, and I know this next piece is gonna take a grip. We will be on it before we get to your good ones. This was the last unban. Let us pick up the stick and continue to beat the dead horse. I do not think the internet is going to win on Monday and unban these cards. However, do you guys think there's a chance that sometime in the near future one of these cards will get banned, if not both? And if so, which one?
I have arguments to unban either one. I don't think you unban both of them. I think you choose one or the other. And I think there's an argument for each one. So with Mana Crypt, it's not technically free. If you're unlucky, it'll deal damage to you. However, it is just 2 generic mana you can have for the rest of the game at any point.
Yep.
So but my argument is that it's or it's generic, or it's colorless mana, and then it also deals you damage. However, Jeweled Lotus was actually just it feels bad because that card doesn't go anywhere else.
Yep.
So it doesn't do anything. And I thought I loved how bigger mana commanders became more popular because of this card, because they were less mana intensive. So it made things better. So I mean, if I was gonna unban one of them, I'd say Jeweled Lotus, but.
So I'm going to stray away for a moment because you hit on a feels bad moment. My wedding was 3 days, I think, before the ban list. We were given a Modern Horizon or a Commander Masters collector pack.
No.
We popped the full art Jeweled Lotus that is on the screen. No. And we're like, this is amazing. I slipped it into a deck, in a commander deck, and it's not a gross commander deck. It was actually slipped into a precon. Only one card was swapped out. And then it got banned. And we're like, what the fuck?
I would be pretty upset.
It was a rough one.
It was a rough one. Now go ahead, Trevor. What were you going to say?
As a person that's played the CDH games, I get why these are banned. I played CDH for a couple months because no other store near me was doing other events. So I did the CDH thing. And having turn 1 a 6 mana commander, disgusting.
True.
But to be fair, that is with everything stacking up in your favor. A 6 mana commander not as easily can technically still happen in some format without these cards.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm known to cast some creatures on 1 or 2 that cost 6 mana.
Like the one we'll get into here in a second.
Yes.
But going off what Trevor was saying about CDH, I've been through a small CDH stint, and just being able to cast a 5 mana creature on turn 2 is still pretty disgusting.
Is so big.
It's just so big.
Now I think I'm gonna hit a spicy point, and I'm not afraid to talk about this because it is the elephant in the room. Do you think these were reasonable cards to get banned? And if we do see Wizards unban these, do you think they are going to do it out of a community uproar, like a reaction to the community, or do you think it's going to be to cover up the allegations the ban community gave, which was they knew they were banning these and Wizards decided to post, or I guess print recopies anyways, and they're going to try and get a money value back out of it? Do you think it's community based or company based?
I think that we're gonna see these get unbanned because Wizards is gonna go, yeah, let's figure out a Commander Master set, and then they're gonna spoil those, and then we're gonna get an emergency unban, and then it's gonna be a, hey, look what we're unbanning, and it's gonna be the 2 cards they spoiled, so that people will throw more money at a set.
Now, Mana Crypto was just recently reprinted. That was in Caverns of Ixalan. So you think we're going to see it again in the near future?
We'll probably see it, and we'll most likely see it in 2025, and probably a supplementary set. I think there's a chance that it gets. Hot take: we see it in the SpongeBob Secret Lair.
Oh, fuck off!
I'm gonna play Patrick's home.
Yep.
That would be really funny. Casey, what is your opinion?
I think if they unban, I think it's a little bit of both. I think if they unban both, I think it's going to be purely for a monetary thing. Like Trevor said, it'll be like they'll announce something soon, like another commander set, and be like, "Oh, Jude Lotus back, and so is Mana Crypt." Like, let's just throw that in there, right?
Right.
Where I feel like if they just unban like something like Jeweled Lotus, that's going to be very much more like community driven, because we've said it a couple times. Jeweled Lotus outside of Commander or Commander formats, we should say, which I don't even know if it's legal in.
You couldn't. It literally strictly says spend this mana only to cast your commander. It has no other place.
But I mean there are other commander formats, but I don't even know if this card's legal in it. This card's probably banned in dual commander.
Like a 2-headed giant.
It is no dual commander is just 1v1.
Oh, that would feel even worse. I feel like this feels fair to me in a 4-pod, not in a 1v1.
No.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean it's Black Lotus in a 1v1, but yeah. So I don't even think it's legal in like dual commander.
I don't think so.
And it's probably not legal in Oathbreaker. I don't even know if that's even called your commander in that sense.
It is legal in Oathbreaker. It did not get banned, and it is still considered your commander. You can also use it to cast your Oathbreaker signature spell.
Okay, so sorry, commander players, you have to play Oathbreaker now to play your Jeweled Lotus.
But you get your Planeswalker.
I will say at my house we do allow these. I bought a Mana Crypt when they plummeted down. It is in a chaos deck that requires people to swap permanents. So I may not be the person playing the Mana Crypt. It may be somebody else in my 4-pod. And can you really be mad at that point?
Yeah, I will say I think that's one of the beautiful things about Commander is just like talk to your play group. Like, I know a lot of CEDH communities that still play with these cards because they were like, well, it was fun. So.
Yeah, we had my husband just got done building his Nadu deck when it got banned. We just got the Jeweled Lotus. I have a friend that popped, I think Tori popped this specific Mana Crypt, right, in her Ixalan. How do you look at someone that just got all of these cards, right, and you go, sorry, internet said so. Now, are we going to let Dockside Assortionist into my house?
No.
Fuck no. But everybody else is welcome to the party, not Dockside.
No pirates.
Hey, I love abusing some Dockside moves, though.
We talked about it, and I would be the person that would be abusing the Dockside.
Yes, sir.
Now let's get to the conversation you guys want. This is your guys' unban hot takes. These are currently banned right now.
Ace Attorney, brother, I'm ready.
Hit me with what your reasoning is for prime time, and I'll shoot it down.
Bro, okay. Outside of me loving Primeval Titan, all right, I've been casting that card for like 6 years.
Wow.
It's a very competitive modern deck that plays it. It plays 4 copies of it.
I could guess.
I love a prime time.
You should do, buddy.
But in Commander, like, I mean, there are just, like, I think there are better things to be doing. Like, yes, sure, you can get Gaia's Cradle or a Thespian Stage combo, but I mean, like, a lot of these lands are not hard to deal with.
Sure.
You know, so what's the point in not having prime time on the field? You know?
I also think that you're going up, you play it, you're up 2 turns. You attack with it, you're up 2 more turns. It's
Yeah.
the value that you get is so big, it
Yep.
should stay banned. I think there's an argument for Sylvan Primordial instead, because that one only searches for forest. Granted, it does
It
destroy.
nukes your opponent. What?
It destroys non-creature stuff, but it also only does it once.
Yeah, but you're destroying 3 of your opponent's lands and ramping 3. I feel like that puts you way more ahead than one Primeval Titan. Like,
But you're only hitting one of your opponent's land for each opponent.
I think my
yeah, but then
issue
you're ramping 3. What?
my issue with this card, as someone that is very new to Magic, I would argue against this card. One, we have Green Trample, which we talked about with Voltrons, right? You need to find a way of connecting. But in this instance, if I'm reading this correctly, you don't even need to connect. It's just when he
Nope.
attacks, it's not
Yeah.
even dealing damage.
Yeah.
So you could just announce that you're attacking, and then, okay, I gotta go get my land cards, right?
Uh-huh.
No, you still have to attack with the creature. Like we're gonna try to connect.
Sure.
You know, but in Commander, I feel like we're playing things way bigger than this. You know, where the creatures are just generally bigger. I feel like most of them are doing bigger things. Like people are going like infinite with abundance and cultivator clauses. You know, that's putting every land in your deck on the field.
I don't think
But
I've seen
that's
these
2
combos.
We haven't got there yet.
Sure.
Just saying.
If we're
Prime
still
time.
playing,
One time, and you could remove it. We're probably not giving prime time haste.
probably not. Probably not. He says.
I think
you know
there's a
you're
pair
going
of boots that say otherwise.
The boots that also make it to where we can't target him.
Yeah, no kidding. I see where you're coming from.
No,
I would love this guy to stay banned. If he gets an unbanned, I am holding 2 untapped blue mana just for you.
Cavern of Souls, though, we can play that in any day.
Oh, get out of here, Cars.
Dude, I'm just saying, I think this card is not going to put people miles ahead more than they think they are.
I think it's a bigger issue than you do. But we can move to the next card.
Let's just move to
This-
MTG Hot Takes.
This one, I really like this one. As someone that just built an Uber deck, I feel like if Door to Nothingness is acceptable to play, this should be as well. Because we've talked about my 3 Doors Down deck, and things like Promising to Stare is in there with way less requirements in order to win. I have not played against this card, so I don't know how bad it can get. But
I
would
actually
be-
know why this card was banned.
I would be interested in playing this card, to be quite honest. However, I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough support. I don't think there's enough people probably playing Oob decks. I could be wrong, to the point where they're like, "Yeah, let's unban this one. Like, this will be a fun thing to take off." I think it just like got sat on a shelf and is there to die.
That's kind of how I feel about the card. I feel like people like say something about it, but then they're like, well, it's not really doing anything. Because I mean, here's the thing: is that people talk about it all the time. They go like, well, there are just a lot of cards that would just make these conditions easy to fulfill. Things like Dryad of the Elysian Grove gives all your lands every basic land type. And then there are a number of artifacts that just like make things different color permanents and everything. Specifically, there's a newer card. It's called Leyline of the Guild Pack that does it for free.
Yeah.
Right, it's busted. It would go pretty much hand in hand with this card.
Sure.
But that also requires you to either draw the Leyline or
Yep.
have it in hand and have it not removed, because this checks it on resolution. So if you just get rid of one piece, now we can't cast this spell. I mean, it's like 7 mana or something?
It's 8.
It's 8.
It's 8 mana. Like,
yeah. A lot has to get pumped into it, let alone, again, you're playing an Oob deck, so you're probably going to be playing other things. I think if someone was to argue, it will win you the game based on these conditions, let's sit down and talk about smaller mana cost with less amount of conditions that just win you the game, right? That at that point, if that's the pedestal that you stand on, there are so many other options, right? And it's probably sitting in people's decks.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to play a non-mana intensive commander for starters. You'd have to have a 5 commander deck or 5 color. identity card for cheap. I think there's like a 4-drop now that'll do it.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, you still have to have that on the field. You have to have every land type, and like there are things that'll get you there. But I feel like this card is just way too easy to interact with.
I think you're playing this in the Ramos deck. Ramos the Dragon Engine.
Joda.
Joda is also another one.
Oh, he's 4 mana. I was right.
He is 4 mana.
Yeah, I mean, like, you play these in the 5 color, but like Joda, for instance, isn't even going to get you all 5 colors.
No.
He's only going to give you Jeskai. So you still need 2 other colors to go. So, I mean, like, I think this card can either take a lot of setup or not a lot of setup, and but it's also interactable. Like, it's kind of my issue is that, like, you're going to let Thoracle combo be a thing for I don't know how long, like 4 years now.
Right.
But this card is like not okay.
Exactly.
I think this is a card that would be fine to rule 0. Again, I'll go back to the Promising Stare because that's one of the cards that I know that's kind of similar to this. I need to have 8 doors unlocked. Well, when I have a commander that I just need to tap to unlock a door, and then you're doing things to be able to tap and untap her, I mean, those win conditions are very, very easily met. And I mean, it's an oob deck, but it's a blue card. So let's move on to the Paradox Engine, which is going to be the last one. While I personally am not a fan of this card, especially considering it is red and aggressive, I do feel like I have no room to talk. I played the Seaborn Muse and I play Zavala in my mono green Omnimath. So, I mean, I cannot cast, my 2 cents there. Trevor, I think this was your card. Please enlighten us as to why you think this is okay and why it should be unbanned.
This is not my card. This is Casey's card, and I've told him so many times that this was a mistake and it should stay banned because I have played this card and I have pumped out on like turn 3 having this card there, and I'm generating like 12 mana each spellcast, and I'm looping cantrips that cost 1, and I'm drawing a million cards.
There are other people that have offered. They're like, if we're rule zeroing the stuff, can we rule 0 this card? And it's people in our MTG Junkies chat, and we're like, no. Next question.
Hear me out.
Oh,
what
God.
if?
Hey, I've been thinking about this. For starters, you're probably playing this in combo pile, so interaction is light. So this thing should be easy to interact with. It's just an artifact. Just pop.
Just an artifact.
Sure.
So you're typically playing this in the Urza piles where you're going 5 mana, get my thing. Guess what? I'm casting a spell for free and I'm untapping all my stuff to then Urza again.
I didn't say it was, it does nice things. All I'm saying is, like, we can get degenerate, We're gonna.
You're right.
Like, come on, it's a 5 mana artifact. What do you like?
Oh.
Yes, it can do very busted things, but it's super easy to interact with.
Yeah, there's nothing that makes it to where artifacts get cheaper.
No.
Okay, well, okay. All right, you started, but I'm just saying, I'm being completely honest. I mean, like, this card is very easy to interact with.
So what I'm hearing is this is a personal choice. Is there anything balancing? Is there anything balanced right now though in the formats? Pick any format and goes, you know what? Everything's balanced out so well. We can bring Paradox Engine back, and it would be fine. It would be fine. It wouldn't run rampant.
It's a popular legacy deck.
I was gonna say Commander's the only format it's banned in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like a lot of these. So an opinion that I have about Commander, and kind of always had, is about like some of these like more powerful cards, like Primeval Titan, Paradox Engine, kind of these kind of things. Is that like either these cards were legal once and they were too strong, but I feel like there's just so much with Prime Time. There's enough removal, counter spells, triggers. Like cards have just become so easy to interact with, assuming that they don't have like counter interaction. Where I feel like these cards would be fine in the world because people are generally already tailoring to these things.
Do you think that these were originally banned because Commander was supposed to be a casual game, but now it's had an influx of also becoming competitive, right? We talk about power levels with our decks, but when you sit down, you're realistically not asking about what the power level is. You could sit down with somebody and they go, oh, I'm playing a precon. But nowadays, I mean, one precon compared to another precon can be totally different power levels. And we see that with price inflections of precons when they come out on debut days, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that like Commander has gotten more competitive over the years. Like CDH has become one of the most popular formats of Magic in the last 2.
Right.
I think that I think a large part of Commander balancing comes from like what am I going to see when I show up to a Wednesday night, and they don't really consider like how social Commander is, because I mean, like, we all have our Commander play groups that we mainly play with, but we play with randoms sometimes, and I think that's what they're trying to balance towards, like when you're randomly playing with randoms. And so, like, yes, Paradox Engine, Primeval Titan, those kind of degenerate cards, like in lower power level pods, is going to cause the problems that people have argued. But I think, like, maybe it's just a Rule Zero thing, but, you know, like, there are some pods that Trevor and I played in where I'm like, Paradox Engine would be the weakest card on the board right now.
Oh, 100%. When we're playing with Z-Fast?
Yeah. Like,
Oh.
So what I'm hearing is we can bully our friends, but we can't bully strangers.
yeah.
Oh, no. You can bully strangers.
Not that we've done that.
Oh, yeah, no, never.
We've definitely never set up a 4-pod and some person, or a 3-pod, and someone goes, hey, do you have room for one more? And we're like, yeah, totally. And they're like, what's the scariest deck on the field? And you're like, don't worry about it, as I shuffle Bellacore.
Yeah.
Ooh, I remember when this happened.
Yeah. Some scary time. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what they tend to balance for. And if that's the case, then these cards are totally justifiably being banned. But however, I think that, well, except for Coalition Victory, I actually just believe that card should not be on the ban list anymore.
So these are situational, and if someone's like, "What about this one?" I'd be like, "Oh, no, we don't unban that one." Or why is that even banned? Yeah. Well, that is the end of our video, Casey. I really appreciate you sitting down and more or less shooting the shit more than anything. And then we're gonna have you back on hopefully Monday, depending on when the bans come out, so we can capture what those are and then give our hot takes on whether or not they were as wonderful and glorious as their last ones.
I can't wait. You know, this was a very fun time. I loved how casual this was.
And I think at some point we should all sit down and play a round of Commander, be it if we stream it or don't stream it. And then maybe we'll have different opinions on these hot takes.
It's okay. I live 15 minutes away from this guy.
Hell yeah. That means you live 15 minutes from me. He is literally like a rock throw across the street.
Oh, that's true. That's crazy. Plus, I would love to break up my Commander deck. I put a lot of time and effort into mine, so...
Your Tatiova Commander deck?
No Simic! And at some point, I do want to try out. I would like to try out some other types of formats other than Commander. I like Commander. That's all I've played. But at some point, I would like to dabble into other formats, because who knows? Maybe I'll find myself at a convention where I try and sit down and play competitively. Probably not, but you never know.
That's fun every now. It's fun every now and then. Trevor comes in and out of retirement all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to help. I build decks in multiple formats. I own 2 Commander decks, 2 Legacy decks, 2 Modern decks, 2 Pioneer decks.
Yep.
Living the dream.
We gotta boost those numbers. I'm at like 21 Commander decks, man.
When I get out to play Commander, it's hardly ever.
They're not great.
Busy guy.
They're not great, but they're there.
Oh, trust me. I have a Commander deck that's like a bad deck, but I love it.
That's fair.
Selesnya humans, baby.
That was a sentence.
Anyways, if you want to see more of us, we have more videos on the channel are Magic related. We have our D&D stuff. You can see what's happening in the Witchlight Carnival. But that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.